3 years. That's how long it took my parents to remember they had a daughter. 3 years of radio silence, 3 years of pretending I didn't exist, until they saw the Forbes article with my husband's face on the cover. Suddenly, blood meant everything again. But I was ready for them this time. You know that feeling when someone you love looks at you like you're nothing? Like you've made the worst decision of your life and they're just disappointed? That's exactly how my mother looked at me when I brought Marcus home for the first time. It was Thanksgiving 2019, and I was so excited. I'd been dating this incredible man for 8 months, and I finally felt ready to introduce him to my family. I should have known better. My parents, Helen and Robert Whitman, had very specific ideas about success. Dad owned 3 car dealerships in Connecticut, Mom ran a boutique interior design firm. They lived in this pristine colonial house where everything had to be perfect, where image mattered more than anything else. I grew up understanding that who you married wasn't about love, it was about maintaining the family's social standing. Marcus arrived at our house that Thursday afternoon wearing his best suit, carrying flowers for my mother and a bottle of expensive wine for my dad. He was nervous, I could tell. His hands were slightly trembling when he rang the doorbell. See, Marcus didn't come from money. He grew up in Detroit, raised by his grandmother after his parents died in a car accident when he was 12. He'd worked construction jobs to put himself through community college, then transferred to a state school where he studied computer science. But here's what my parents didn't bother to learn about Marcus that day: he was brilliant. Not just smart, brilliant. He could look at any system, any process, any problem, and see solutions that nobody else could see. He'd been quietly developing software in his spare time, working on something he called predictive logistics optimization. I barely understood what that meant, but I knew it was important because Marcus would stay up until 3 in the morning coding, his eyes lighting up every time he made a breakthrough. My mother opened the front door, and I watched her face change. She'd been expecting, I don't know, someone different. Someone who screamed money and breeding. Marcus was tall, athletic from years of physical labor, with calloused hands and this quiet confidence that came from earning everything he'd ever had. He wasn't polished in the way my parents expected. He didn't name-drop or talk about his portfolio or mention which country club his family belonged to. Because he didn't have any of those things. Mrs. Whitman, thank you so much for having me, Marcus said, offering her the flowers. Sarah's told me so much about you. Mom took the flowers like they might contaminate her. Oh. How thoughtful. Dinner was a nightmare. My parents peppered Marcus with questions that weren't really questions, they were tests. Where did he go to school? What did his parents do? What were his career prospects? Each answer seemed to disappoint them more. When Marcus mentioned he was working as a freelance software developer while building his own company, Dad actually scoffed. Software, Dad said, cutting his turkey with surgical precision. Everyone thinks they're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg these days. Marcus smiled politely. I'm not trying to be the next anyone, sir. I'm just trying to solve problems that matter. Problems that matter, Mom repeated, like the words tasted sour. How ambitious. I kicked my father under the table. Hard. But the damage was done. I could see Marcus pulling back, getting quieter, that spark in his eyes dimming with each passive-aggressive comment. After dinner, I walked Marcus to his car. It was this old Honda Civic with 180,000 miles on it, and I watched my parents watching from the window as we stood beside it. Your family seems nice, Marcus said. He was lying, and we both knew it. They're not usually like this, I lied back. But honestly? They were exactly like this. This was who they were when someone didn't meet their standards. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Marcus turned to face me fully. Are you ashamed of me? The question hit me like a physical blow. What? No. Marcus, no, never. Because if this is too hard, if I'm not what your family expects. Stop. I grabbed his hands, those beautiful, working hands that my mother had stared at like they were foreign objects. I love you. I love your hands and your mind and the way you see the world. I love that you built yourself from nothing, that you never gave up, that you care more about solving problems than impressing people. He kissed me then, right there in my parents' driveway, and I didn't care who was watching. But things got worse after that. Much worse. My parents launched what I can only describe as a campaign. Phone calls where Mom would casually mention that the Henderson boy just made partner at his law firm, or you remember Jessica's husband? He just bought that house in Greenwich. Dad would send me job listings for marketing positions at his dealerships, suggesting I could do better than freelance work. The worst part? They were subtle about it. Never directly saying Marcus wasn't good enough, just planting seeds of doubt. Asking questions like, are you sure he can provide for you, and what happens when you want to start a family, and my personal favorite, honey, we just want you to think about your future. I started declining family dinners. Making excuses for why Marcus couldn't come to events. I was trying to protect him, but I was also protecting myself from their judgment. Marcus noticed, of course he did. He started suggesting that maybe we should take a break from family gatherings altogether. I don't want to come between you and your parents, he said one evening. We were in his tiny apartment, sharing takeout Chinese food on his second-hand couch. His laptop was open beside us, code scrolling across the screen like some secret language. You're not coming between us, I said. They are. That's when he told me about the breakthrough. His software, the thing he'd been working on for 2 years, had caught the attention of a major shipping company. They wanted to license his technology. Not just license it, they wanted to buy his entire company. For $37 million. I dropped my chopsticks. 37 million? Marcus was grinning, but there was something else in his expression. Uncertainty? Fear? Sarah, this changes everything. I mean, everything. We could buy a house, we could travel, we could get married, I finished. He got down on one knee right there in his living room, between the takeout containers and the second-hand furniture, and proposed with a ring he'd been hiding in his desk drawer for 3 months. It wasn't a huge diamond, it was perfect. Simple, elegant, exactly what I would have chosen. I said yes before he finished asking the question. I called my parents the next morning, practically vibrating with excitement. Mom, I'm engaged. Silence. Then, oh, Sarah. Are you sure about this? Am I sure? Mom, I love him. And actually, there's something else. Marcus just sold his company. We're going to be fine financially. More than fine. Another pause. How much are we talking about? I should have hung up right then. Should have recognized the shift in her tone. But I was too happy, too excited to share my good news. 37 million, Mom. Before taxes, but still. $37 million? Her voice changed completely. Suddenly she was interested. Very interested. Sarah, that's wonderful. When can we meet with Marcus to discuss the wedding plans? The whiplash was stunning. 24 hours earlier, Marcus wasn't good enough to date their daughter. Now he was suddenly acceptable for marriage? I felt sick. Actually, Mom, Marcus and I want to plan our own wedding. Something small, intimate. Nonsense. The Whitman family has traditions. We need to do this properly. Your father will want to discuss the prenup arrangements, and we'll need to start planning immediately. June weddings are lovely, but we might be able to arrange something for May if we move quickly. She was already planning my life, planning Marcus's money, planning our future like it belonged to her. Like we belonged to her now that we had value. I have to go, Mom. Sarah, wait. Let's have lunch this week. Just us girls. We have so much to catch up on. I hung up and cried for 20 minutes. Marcus found me on his couch, tears streaming down my face, and I told him everything. About the phone call, about my parents' sudden change of heart, about how they'd treated him before and how they wanted to be involved now. "So what do you want to do?" he asked. I looked at this man I loved, this person who'd been treated like dirt by my family until he became worth something to them, and I made a decision that would change everything. "I want to marry you," I said. "Just you. No family drama, no social expectations, no people who only care about us when we have money to offer them." We eloped 3 weeks later. Vegas, I know, but it was perfect. Just us, an Elvis impersonator, and 24 hours in Sin City celebrating the fact that we'd chosen each other over everything else. I sent my parents a wedding photo via text message. No explanation, no invitation to celebrate with us afterward. Just a picture of Marcus and me, radiantly happy, with wedding rings on our fingers. Dad called within an hour. "Sarah Elizabeth Whitman, what have you done?" "I got married, Dad. To the man I love. The man you couldn't be bothered to get to know. We wanted to be involved. We were planning. You were planning to use us. There's a difference." Mom got on the phone. "Sarah, this is ridiculous. Come home. We'll throw you a proper reception, we'll announce the marriage in the society pages, we'll..." "No. No. No, Mom. I'm done. I'm done pretending that money makes Marcus worthy of your respect. I'm done pretending that your approval matters to me. I'm done with all of it." I hung up. And that was it. 3 years of silence. No Christmas cards, no birthday calls, no acknowledgement that I existed. They wrote me off completely. Occasionally, I'd hear through family friends that my parents were telling people I'd made poor choices and was going through a rebellious phase. They acted like Marcus and I were some kind of embarrassment they preferred not to discuss. Fine by me. Marcus and I bought a house in California. Nothing too flashy, but comfortable. A place with good light for his home office and a garden where I could grow vegetables. He started a new company, this time focused on AI applications for environmental sustainability. I went back to school, got my MBA, started consulting for nonprofits. We traveled. We adopted a dog named Watson. We were happy. Really, genuinely happy. We kept our success relatively quiet. Marcus didn't flaunt his wealth, didn't post about it on social media, didn't make grand gestures. He drove a Tesla, but so did half of California. Our house was nice, but not mansion level. We lived well, but we lived privately. Until the Forbes article. Marcus's new company had developed technology that could reduce shipping emissions by 40%. Major corporations were lining up to license his software. The environmental impact was huge, the profit potential was enormous, and Forbes decided to feature him as one of their 30 under 30 environmental innovators. The article called him the quiet genius revolutionizing green logistics and mentioned that his previous company sale had set him up to pursue passion projects with potential for massive global impact. They estimated his current net worth at somewhere north of $200 million. I found out about my parents' renewed interest in my existence through my cousin Rachel, who called me laughing so hard she could barely speak. "Sarah, you're not going to believe this. Your mom just called my mom asking for your phone number. She said there'd been a family misunderstanding and she wanted to rebuild bridges with you and Marcus." "She asked for my phone number? She doesn't have my phone number?" "Apparently you changed it at some point and they never bothered to ask for the new one." "But Sarah, my mom said your mom sounded desperate. Like, weird desperate. She kept mentioning that article about Marcus, asking if we knew how she could get in touch with her successful son-in-law." Her successful son-in-law. Not Marcus. Not her daughter's husband. Her successful son-in-law. I was furious, but I was also curious. How far would they go? How obvious would they make their sudden change of heart? I decided to find out. I had Rachel give my mother my phone number. Then I waited. The call came the next morning. Sarah. Sweetheart. It's Mom. Hi, Mom. Oh honey, it's so good to hear your voice. We've missed you so much. Your father and I were just talking about how we let silly misunderstandings get in the way of family relationships. Life's too short, you know? Silly misunderstandings. That's what she called 3 years of complete rejection. Is it? Of course it is. And we're so proud of you and Marcus. That Forbes article, my goodness. I had no idea he was so accomplished. Your father feels terrible about not recognizing his potential earlier. There it was. Not we feel terrible about how we treated you both or we were wrong to judge him. No, they felt bad about not recognizing his financial potential. They were upset that they'd missed out on being associated with success. Marcus is the same person he was 3 years ago, Mom. Well, yes, but now everyone can see what a visionary he is. We'd love to have you both over for dinner. Maybe next weekend? I could make that roast you used to love, and your father has some business ideas he'd like to discuss with Marcus. Business ideas. Of course. What kind of business ideas? Oh, you know your father. He's always thinking about investments, partnerships, ways to expand successful ventures. He thinks there might be some synergy between Marcus's technology and the automotive industry. Synergy. My mother had never used the word synergy in her life. I'll talk to Marcus and get back to you. Wonderful. Oh, and Sarah? We're planning to update our wills soon. It's important that family wealth stays in the family, if you know what I mean. We want to make sure you and Marcus are properly provided for. After 3 years of acting like I was dead to them, they wanted to make sure Marcus and I were in their will. The manipulation was breathtaking. I hung up and immediately called Marcus at his office. Honey, we need to talk. My parents want to have dinner. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. After 3 years of nothing? After 3 years of nothing. They saw the Forbes article. Ah. Another pause. What do you want to do? This is why I love this man. He didn't immediately say no, didn't get angry, didn't point out how hypocritical and transparent my parents were being. He just asked what I wanted to do. I want to see how far they'll go, I said. I want to understand exactly what they think they're going to get out of us now. You want to let them make their pitch? I want to give them enough rope to hang themselves with. We had dinner at my parents' house the following Saturday. The same dining room where they'd treated Marcus like a contamination 3 years earlier. Mom had gone all out, my father's best wine, the china that only came out for special occasions, flowers everywhere. She'd even hired a catering service instead of cooking herself. And the performance they put on for Marcus was Oscar-worthy. Marcus, that Forbes article was incredible, Dad said, pouring him a glass of wine that probably cost more than most people's rent. I have to admit, I didn't fully understand your vision before. I was focused on traditional business models, not seeing the bigger picture. Thank you, Mr. Whitman. Please, call me Robert. We're family now. Family. After 3 years of pretending we didn't exist. Mom chimed in. I've been telling everyone about my brilliant son-in-law. Mrs. Peterson from the country club was so impressed when I showed her the article. She said her grandson is studying computer science and would love to meet you sometime. Marcus glanced at me. I could see him trying to process this alternate reality where my parents were proud of him, where they'd been bragging about him to their friends instead of pretending he didn't exist. That's nice of you to say, he managed. The evening got progressively more surreal. Dad started talking about family legacy and generational wealth. Mom mentioned several times how important it was for successful people to stay connected to their roots. They asked detailed questions about Marcus's business, his investments, his future plans. And then came the real pitch. "Marcus," Dad said over dessert, "I've been thinking about expansion opportunities. My dealerships are doing well, but the industry is changing. Electric vehicles, autonomous technology, there's going to be massive disruption in the next decade." "That's true," Marcus agreed. "I'd love to discuss a partnership. Maybe Marcus Technologies could develop some kind of fleet management software specifically for automotive retailers. I have relationships with dealers across New England, and with your technology background. You want me to help you corner the market on dealership software?" Marcus asked. "I want us to work together as family," Dad said smoothly. "Pool our resources, leverage our connections. Sarah's inheritance could be the seed money for a joint venture. We're talking about building something generational here." My inheritance. Money I'd never asked for, from parents who'd disowned me, contingent on Marcus creating wealth for them. Mom leaned forward. "We've also been thinking about real estate investments. That house you bought in California is lovely, but property values on the East Coast are so much more stable. We could help you find something here, closer to family. Closer to them. Where they could keep an eye on their investment. There's also the matter of social connections," Dad continued. "The country club membership, the charity boards, the right social circles. Success isn't just about money, Marcus. It's about positioning yourself with the right people." I watched Marcus's face throughout this presentation. He was polite, asking appropriate questions, nodding at the right moments. But I could see the same expression I'd seen 3 years ago at that first Thanksgiving dinner. He was watching my parents try to buy him, try to own him, try to reshape him into their image of what a successful son-in-law should be. When we got in the car to leave, Marcus was quiet for several minutes. "They don't want a relationship with us," he finally said. "They want to franchise us." That was it exactly. They wanted to buy into Marcus Technologies, into his success, into the social status that came with having a wealthy son-in-law. They wanted to be able to claim credit for his achievements, to benefit financially from his work, to use his reputation to elevate their own. But they still didn't want to actually know him. They never asked about his grandmother, who'd raised him. They never mentioned his charity work with Detroit schools. They never acknowledged the years he'd spent building his first company while working construction jobs. They wanted the Marcus who existed in Forbes magazine, not the Marcus who existed in real life. "So what's our next move?" I asked. Marcus smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "I think it's time your parents learned about due diligence." Over the next few weeks, my parents ramped up their campaign. Dad called Marcus directly several times, ostensibly to get to know his son-in-law better but really to pitch various business schemes. Mom started sending me real estate listings for houses near theirs, along with chatty emails about family gatherings we should attend and people we simply had to meet. They were love-bombing us. Hard. The breaking point came when they showed up at our house in California unannounced. I answered the door to find both of my parents standing on our porch with suitcases and massive smiles. "Surprise!" Mom said. "We thought we'd come visit, see your lovely home, spend some quality time together." They'd booked themselves a hotel nearby and had apparently planned a week-long stay. Without asking. Without invitation. They just showed up. That evening, over dinner at a restaurant they'd chosen and insisted on paying for, Dad made his real offer. "Marcus, I'm going to cut to the chase. I've been thinking about retirement, and I want to make you an offer. I'm willing to sell you 49% of my dealership business for $15 million. You'd maintain your technology companies, but you'd also have a stake in a proven, profitable automotive business. Sarah would inherit the remaining 51% when her mother and I pass, giving you both controlling interest in a multi-generational enterprise." Marcus set down his fork. "You want me to buy into your business?" "I want us to be partners." Family partners. The dealerships generate about $12 million a year in profit. Your investment would pay for itself in 18 months, and after that, it's pure passive income. Plus, Sarah's inheritance. What inheritance? I interrupted. You cut me out of your life 3 years ago. We never cut you out, sweetheart. We just needed time to understand your choices. But now we see that you chose well. Marcus is exactly the kind of man we'd want in the family business. The family business that had never been offered to me before. The inheritance that had never been mentioned when I was dating a construction worker. And if Marcus doesn't want to invest? I asked. Dad's smile faltered slightly. Well, that would be disappointing. But of course, it's his choice. Though I'd hope he'd want to secure his family's future. His family. Not our family. His family. The family that included Marcus's money but only conditionally included Marcus himself. Mom jumped in. There's also the matter of grandchildren to consider. When you and Marcus start having babies, you'll want them to grow up around family, to understand their heritage. The trust funds we could set up, the educational opportunities. They were planning our children's lives. Planning to use theoretical grandchildren as leverage to keep us connected to their financial schemes. I looked at Marcus. He was sitting very still, the way he did when he was processing complex problems. Finally, he spoke. Robert, I appreciate the offer. But I'm curious about something. 3 years ago, when Sarah first brought me to meet you, what was your impression of me? Dad looked uncomfortable. Well, that was before I understood your potential. My potential? Your business acumen, your vision, your success. But I was the same person then that I am now. I had the same vision, the same work ethic, the same goals. The only thing that's changed is that other people now recognize the value of what I was already doing. Well, yes, but... So when you say you needed time to understand Sarah's choices, what you really mean is that you needed time to see whether those choices would be profitable for you. The silence at the table was excruciating. Mom tried to recover. Marcus, we were just being protective parents. We wanted to make sure Sarah would be provided for. By a man you never gave a chance to prove he could provide for her? We're trying to make up for that now, Dad said. We're offering you a place in the family business, a real partnership. You're offering me a chance to pay you $15 million for the privilege of being accepted by you, Marcus said quietly. You're asking me to buy my way into your approval. That's when I realized what Marcus was doing. He wasn't just responding to their offer, he was conducting an interview. He was gathering evidence, building a case, documenting their motivations for some future purpose. That's not how we see it, Mom stammered. How do you see it? I asked. She looked between Marcus and me, clearly realizing that her carefully planned manipulation wasn't going according to script. We see it as bringing the family together. Healing old wounds. Making sure everyone benefits from our success together. Our success? Marcus repeated. Whose success are we talking about, exactly? Dad was getting frustrated. Look, Marcus, I'm trying to offer you an opportunity here. A chance to diversify your investments, to build something lasting with family. If you're not interested, just say so. I'm very interested, Marcus said. I'm interested in understanding exactly what you think this relationship is going to look like going forward. What do you mean? I mean, let's say I invest in your business. Let's say Sarah and I move back to Connecticut, join the country club, start attending family gatherings. What happens when my next company fails? What happens if the market crashes and my net worth drops? What happens if I make a business decision you disagree with, or if Sarah and I choose to donate our money to causes you don't support? My parents looked at each other. They hadn't prepared for these questions. That's not going to happen, Mom said weakly. But if it did? Another long silence. We're family, Dad finally said. Family sticks together. The way you stuck with us for the past 3 years? That's when I knew Marcus had all the evidence he needed. My parents had just demonstrated, in the clearest possible terms, that their definition of family was entirely conditional. They stuck with family when family was profitable. When family had value to offer them. When family enhanced their social status and financial position. But when family was just family. When family was about love and support and acceptance without strings attached. They were nowhere to be found. Marcus stood up from the table. Robert, Helen, I need to be very clear about something. I'm not interested in your business offer. I'm not interested in moving back to Connecticut. I'm not interested in buying my way into your approval or your inheritance or your social circle. Marcus's dad started. I'm not finished. For 3 years, you pretended your daughter didn't exist because she married someone you thought was beneath your standards. You missed birthdays, holidays, important moments in her life. You missed the chance to know the woman she's become, the work she's doing, the life we've built together. We want to make up for that, Mom said desperately. No, you don't. You want to profit from it. You saw a Forbes article and suddenly remembered you had a daughter, but only because that daughter comes with a wealthy husband now. You're not trying to repair a relationship, you're trying to negotiate a business deal. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed them something on the screen. I've been recording this conversation, by the way. With your permission, of course, you both agreed when I asked if you minded me taking notes on my phone for future reference. Their faces went pale. I wanted to make sure I had a clear record of this offer. $15 million for 49% of a business, contingent on Sarah and me moving closer to family and participating in your social circle. With the implied understanding that Sarah's inheritance depends on our continued financial success and willingness to invest in family ventures. That's not, you're twisting what we said, Dad protested. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you want to sell me a relationship with my own wife's family. And that's not something I'm interested in purchasing. We left them sitting at that restaurant table. Flew back to California the next morning while they were still trying to figure out how their surefire manipulation had backfired so spectacularly. But they weren't done. Over the next few months, my parents tried everything. Guilt trips about missed family time. Emotional manipulation about wanting to make amends. Financial incentives that got progressively more desperate. Dad offered to invest in Marcus's companies instead of asking Marcus to invest in his. Mom suggested we could live anywhere we wanted, they'd just like to visit occasionally. They backed down on every demand, every condition, every expectation, as long as we stayed connected to them financially. The final straw came when Mom called crying, claiming Dad had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition and they needed to make peace with the family before something happened to him. Marcus and I actually booked flights back to Connecticut. We were prepared to put aside our anger if Dad was genuinely sick, if this was a real crisis that required us to be the bigger people. Except I ran into Mrs. Peterson from the country club at the Hartford airport. You remember Mrs. Peterson, the one whose grandson supposedly wanted to meet Marcus? Sarah. How wonderful to see you. Your mother said you were coming to visit. How's your father's golf game? He beat my husband by 6 strokes last week. Dad's golf game. His golf game that he'd been playing the day before Mom called about his heart condition. That's when I realized they'd fabricated a medical emergency to manipulate us into coming home. They'd lied about Dad being sick to create urgency around their financial schemes. I called Mom from the airport. How's Dad feeling today? Oh, much better, sweetheart. The doctors say it was just a minor episode. Nothing serious. But it really made us think about family and priorities and... Mom, stop. Just stop. We got back on the plane and went home. That was 8 months ago. They haven't contacted us since, which tells me everything I need to know about their priorities. When they realized they couldn't profit from a relationship with us, they lost interest in having a relationship with us. But here's the thing that really gets me. Marcus and I are happy. We're building something real together, something based on love and respect and shared values. We're working on projects that matter, contributing to causes we believe in, creating a life that reflects who we actually are rather than who someone else thinks we should be. My parents missed all of that. They missed the chance to know Marcus as a person rather than a financial asset. They missed the opportunity to have a genuine relationship with their daughter. They missed out on being part of a family that could have included them if they'd been willing to accept us for who we are rather than what we can do for them. And honestly, that's their loss. I've learned that family isn't about blood or shared genetics or social expectations. Family is about the people who choose to love you when you're nobody special, who support your dreams even when they don't understand them, who celebrate your successes without calculating what's in it for them. Marcus is my family. The friends who stood by us when we were broke and still stand by us now that we're not, they're my family too. The people who see our marriage as something to protect rather than something to exploit, those are our people. As for my parents, they made their choice. They chose money over relationship, status over substance, calculation over connection. They revealed who they really are when they thought no one was paying attention. And I'm never going to forget that lesson. Subscribe for more stories about the people who show their true colors when money enters the picture.